I don't want to send him to prison.
Sure.
Even though we don't like each other.
Sure.
I don't want to send you to prison.
$1 million. That's what a man now on trial for Tupac Shakur's murder says Sean Diddy Combs offered him to kill both Tupac and Suge Knight. This wasn't some internet rumor. This wasn't a documentary theory. This came directly out of Dwayne Davis's own mouth on a recorded police interview played out loud in a Las Vegas courtroom this week. The same recording prosecutors are using to try to convict him of orchestrating Tupac's murder. And here's what makes it even stranger.
He's scary, dude.
Still is, huh?
Yeah.
Now, when he asked about it, he always said both of them, or he said should mostly, or he just always talking both of them?
That was when he had his boy on after he made the record.
And before that, it was just should.
Yeah.
And then after Hit 'Em Up came out,
Yeah, that pissed them off.
so he's like, kill both of them.
Yeah.
Davis's own lawyer stood in front of the jury and called his client's version of events bullshit. Then prosecutors played the tape, and what came out of it wasn't just a confession. It was an accusation aimed at one of the most powerful men in music history. Let's break down exactly what's on that recording and why this allegation, even unproven, changes how you have to look at this entire case.
Who brought up the amount of $1 million?
Shit. He did.
Puffy did?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it you?
No, it wasn't me. I'll shit. $1 million, I'll take it. Yeah. Take it for 50. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
So he brought up the $1 million.
Yeah. Them project dudes will kill your ass for $1,500.
According to the 2008 recorded interview, part of what's legally called a proffer, where a suspect shares information privately, usually hoping for a lighter sentence, Dwayne Davis told detectives that Sean Combs personally offered him $1 million to kill Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. A former LAPD detective, Darren Dupree, testified on the stand that Davis told him Combs first raised the idea of killing them during a conversation at Greenblatt's Deli in Los Angeles. Dupree also said Davis claimed Combs gave money to a man named Eric Zip Martin, money that was supposed to make its way to Davis, but according to Davis, never actually did.
Is there any special significance to taking somebody's chain?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Can you explain that?
I mean, that was their logo, and so it's like you taking that from them is, like you got something, to at least harp about or to say, hey, look, I took this. That's all it would be.
Would it be considered disrespectful to rip somebody's chain off?
Yes.
This isn't the first time this allegation has surfaced either. In his own 2019 memoir, Compton Street Legend, Davis wrote that Combs approached him directly, asking for help with, in Davis's words, a couple of problems I need to be handled. Problems Davis says referred specifically to Suge Knight and Tupac, and there's a deeper layer here that prosecutors say isn't a coincidence. According to their own theory of the case, the Southside Crips, the gang prosecutors say Davis led, were associated with Combs's label, Bad Boy Records. Meanwhile, the rival Mob Piru Bloods were tied to Death Row Records, Tupac and Knight's label. In other words, if prosecutors are right, the East Coast-West Coast rap rivalry that dominated headlines in the 90s wasn't just a media narrative. It was allegedly running on the same tracks as a real, violent gang rivalry.
And was there a particular gang that people in Bad Boy were worried about?
Yeah, they was worried about Death Row.
Lee also testified that Davis was known as a hustler, high-level moneymaker from drug dealing.
Diddy's camp isn't staying quiet about this. Sources close to Combs have already called the bounty allegation bogus, insisting he had, in their words, absolutely nothing to do with Tupac's murder. As of this recording, Combs's representatives haven't issued a formal statement responding to CNN's request for comment. And it's worth remembering, Combs is currently serving his own prison sentence, 50 months, following a 2025 conviction on unrelated federal charges, which makes this whole situation even messier to untangle. This also isn't coming out of nowhere. Tupac's own family previously hired high-profile attorney Alex Spiro specifically to investigate whether Combs had any connection to his death. And there's already a 4-part documentary, Sean Combs, The Reckoning, that argues the entire Tupac-Biggie rivalry wasn't organic, that it was deliberately fueled, with Combs allegedly playing a role in escalating it. So, is any of this actually true? Here's where I think you have to separate two different things. What's happening in that courtroom isn't a trial about Diddy.
Prosecutors playing a lengthy recording of Dwayne "Keefe D. Davis admitting to playing a role in the murder of Tupac Shakur. Now, this is a 2008 conversation with LAPD while they were investigating the murder of Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls. He was killed in LA just months after Shakur's murder in Las Vegas in 1996.
Nobody is charging him with anything here. This is Dwayne Davis's own alleged account.
But Davis admitted to a role in the drive-by shooting which took the life of Shakur, and he claimed Sean Diddy Combs played a role in it.
And it's exactly the kind of statement his defense is trying to get the jury to dismiss entirely. Remember, they've called his public statements fiction. So if you're inclined to believe Davis was just talking to sound important for years, this allegation about Diddy would fall under that same shadow of doubt. But if you believe, like prosecutors are arguing, that Davis's account has stayed remarkably consistent for over a decade, matching almost exactly between what he told police in 2008 and what he wrote in his book in 2019, then this allegation carries a lot more weight than just gossip. Now let's get into what else came out on that same recording, because the details are honestly more specific than anything that's surfaced in this case before. Davis told detectives that Terrence Brown was driving the white Cadillac that night. Davis was in the front passenger seat. DeAndre Smith was directly behind the driver. And in the back seat, on the right side, was Davis's own nephew, Orlando "Baby Lane" Anderson, the man long suspected of pulling the trigger. Davis said their car ended up on the wrong side to fire from where he was sitting. In his own words, recorded on tape, "If we would have been on my side, I would have blasted." Because of the angle, he says he simply passed the gun back to DeAndre Smith, who fired the shots that killed Tupac. In the recording, he described Anderson leaning over, rolling down the window, and firing.
He leaned over on the window, we were down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They would have drove on my side, I would have popped them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side. If we would have been on our side, I would have blasted.
Now here's the twist that should genuinely worry his defense team. In jailhouse interviews recorded before this trial even started, Davis told a Las Vegas news team something completely different, that he wasn't even in Las Vegas the night of the shooting.
I wasn't even in Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't in Vegas when this stuff happened. I just said that stuff to get out of trouble.
So you were not in Las Vegas, you're saying September 7, 1996?
No, I wasn't. They can't prove I was in Las Vegas.
Did you have anything to do with the murder of Tupac Shakur?
No, ma'am. I did. Why would I kill our money like that? It don't make sense. She'll not will tell you that I did.
That's not a minor inconsistency. That's a full contradiction of the taped 2008 interview jurors just heard, and a direct contradiction of his own memoir. Two separate, detailed accounts, over a decade apart, to police, then to a co-writer for a published book, line up on granular details. And then, right before trial, a brand new version shows up claiming none of it happened. If I'm on that jury, that new version is the one that looks like damage control, not the tape. Davis's legal team has actually tried to get ahead of this exact problem. In a court filing, his lawyers argued that the book and his paid YouTube interviews were produced for a financial benefit under the belief that Dwayne had immunity and that he was paid a substantial amount of money to give his interviews on YouTube. Basically, their argument is, he said all of this for money, believing he was legally protected, so none of it should be treated as a real confession. That's a real legal argument, but it's a much harder sell once a jury has heard his own recorded voice from 2008, independently matching a book he published 11 years later, right down to who was sitting where in the car and who pulled the trigger. Before jurors even got to any of this, the week had already produced some tense, uncomfortable courtroom moments. A witness named James McDonald, who clearly didn't want to be there, pushed back hard against the prosecution on the stand, at one point turning directly to Davis and saying, "What you're going through, brother, is what you're going through. I didn't want to be a part of it."
I don't want to send him to prison.
Sure.
Even though we don't like each other.
Sure.
I don't want to send you to prison.
Real confession. That's a real legal argument, but it's a much harder sell once a jury has heard his own recorded voice from 2008, independently matching a book he published 11 years later, right down to who was sitting where in the car and who pulled the trigger. Before jurors even got to any of this, the week had already produced some tense, uncomfortable courtroom moments. A witness named James McDonald, who clearly didn't want to be there, pushed back hard against the prosecution on the stand, at one point turning directly to Davis and saying, "What you're going through, brother, is what you're going through. I didn't want to be a part of it." Outside the courtroom, he told reporters bluntly, "I'm not going to send another black man to prison." Through it all, Davis reportedly showed almost no visible reaction, which, at this point in the trial, feels like his defining trait. There was also difficult testimony involving graphic autopsy evidence, during which some of Tupac's family members left the courtroom while others stayed. His cousin, Zaid Akinyela, told reporters he found it helped him process his grief rather than harmed him. So here's where I think this case is actually headed. The defense's whole strategy is built on convincing the jury that decades of Davis talking, interviews, a memoir, paid YouTube appearances amount to nothing more than a man cashing in on a story, not a real confession. That's a real argument, but it gets significantly harder to make with every piece of independent corroboration that lines up, and with a brand new, convenient version of events that only appeared once trial was about to begin. My prediction: prosecutors are going to lean hard into that contradiction in closing arguments, using the "I wasn't even there" claim not as reasonable doubt, but as proof that Davis changes his story the moment the truth stops being profitable. As for the Diddy allegation specifically, don't expect that thread to get fully resolved in this trial. Nobody's charged, and it's likely to remain exactly what it is right now, an explosive claim made by a man whose credibility is the central question of his own murder trial. This case is expected to run for weeks still, with Suge Knight, the only other person alive who was in that BMW, and members of Tupac's own family expected to testify. Every new witness seems to be adding weight to the same underlying question. Is 30 years of consistency enough to convict a man, or is the one moment his story suddenly changed the only version that actually matters? We'll keep tracking this as more testimony comes in. If you're following this case, like this video, subscribe to Spotlight Flow, and share it with anyone still asking who really killed Tupac. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe the Diddy bounty claim, or is this just one unreliable man's story about another famously controversial figure?